Welcome to For You Radio, where the gospel's for the believer and the unbeliever alike. That's even drummers like Troy.
I'm not really a drummer at all.
You're make-believe drummer.
A little bit of a desk drummer, I guess. But
You're always trying to figure out that rhythm on
I got that snare in my head.
There.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really a funky beat.
Fun. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm Craig D'Onofrio, pastor of St. James Lutheran Church in the old Brooklyn neighborhood of Cleveland. And you are, sir? I
am still Pastor Troy Neer. And I happen to be pastor of St. Peter's Lutheran Church in Shaker Heights, Ohio.
Yes, you are.
OHIO.
Come visit us. We would love to have you worship our Savior, Jesus Christ, with us. Our churches are all about Christ all the time, hopefully. That's what we aim for. And
we should make that our motto. All Jesus, all the time.
And we are about the forgiveness of sins. Only sinners are welcome at St. James, and I assume St. Peter's also. So do come visit us. We are part of 1517's network, 1517.org. Go check out 1517. All sorts of blogcasts or podcasts and blogs and all sorts of stuff. So go check that out. Books galore. Good folks over there. 1517.org. Okay. Troy, if people wanted to email us, where would they email to?
For You Radio at 1517.org.
That's right. Okay. Is there anything else? You can go to 1517.org. Wait.
Backslash podcast.
For you. No, podcasts. Just type For You Radio.
Oh, your goodness. Just Google For You. Yeah, exactly.
And if you listen to this as a podcast, we would be very grateful if you gave us a 5-star rating and a nice review.
You know, and I'm honest to say, if you really think we're worth 5 stars.
I don't care for your negativity, sir.
3 stars needs improvement. Oh my goodness.
Okay, so
not
today,
that we would change anything if you give us 3 stars. We're not really going to get any better.
That's true.
It's just that, let's be honest about it.
We could put in a little more effort, I guess. But, I don't know. Okay, so Today we continue with the 7th commandment for Lutherans, Roman Catholics, Episcopalians, etc. The 8th commandment for our Calvinist-leaning friends, which is, you shall not steal.
Okay.
Thou shalt not steal. Right?
Very good. All right, very good. What's this mean?
Well, I shouldn't go into 7-Eleven, grab some candy, and run out the door.
Okay. All right.
That would be bad.
Saw a great video like where a bear in Alaska did that. He just kind of came in like every night about 10:30, grabbed some stuff off the shelf and headed out.
Yeah, that's one of those cases where the employee really should not try to intervene with the thief. Holy cow. That's just terrifying. So anyway, it goes well beyond just petty theft or grand larceny or, obvious out there theft, right? I'm stealing from you. I stole your car and I'm driving down the road, that sort of thing.
Okay.
All these commandments go to the heart. And where are our hearts?
Oh, wow.
If we have stolen in our hearts, we may as well have done it because we're sinful, right? And that's not an excuse to go steal stuff either. So you got to keep that in mind, that just because you're guilty in your heart, that doesn't mean, well, if I'm guilty in my heart, I may as well go ahead and do it. It's kind of one of those things where you're accused of certain things that you've never done, and you're like, well, I may as well do it if I'm going to be accused of it, right? That's not good logic. That doesn't work well.
Yeah.
Never pays out in the end.
So I got to say this too. Obviously, the commandment to not steal is intimately connected to the commandment to not covet.
Yes.
So we're going to have to kind of make some careful distinctions and kind of carefully focus just on the not stealing aspect, right? Yeah. It's really interesting that when you bring up the attitude of the heart, and I admit I've really not considered that, but with that too, and especially if we think of our Luther's explanation of this commandment, that heart then is also going to inform us that, well, what should we do for our neighbor's benefit? And that is not just not take his stuff, but also help him improve his stuff.
Right.
So your neighbor has stuff, and this commandment is that, 1, you should not take it, and also 2, you should help him to keep and improve it.
Right. Right.
Okay.
So I see trash on the side of the road, and I drive by it and I think, well, that's a pity. Someone threw their McDonald's out the window.
Yeah.
I don't usually stop and pick it up. I don't even give it a second thought. And yet I have a parishioner named Greg who would go out there and pick it up and would throw it away because he's very conscientious about the environment and that sort of thing. I admire that tremendously. It's just not a thought in my head, period.
Yeah, I gotta say, I've ignored trash in the church parking lot as I pulled up occasionally. Just
I will neither confirm nor deny that I've done the same.
I have at least on occasion gotten all the way to the front door and then go, ugh, okay, I'll go pick it up. Who else is going to do it? Right?
So what does picking up trash have to do with not stealing? People are asking right now. That's really random and weird.
A little bit random, sure.
Well, it's what you were just saying, right?
Yeah. Which is?
Improving your neighbor's property.
Okay.
Who's my neighbor? Everyone that you drive past is your neighbor.
Okay.
Right?
So you're a bit broad on that because typically when I think of, trash on the side of the road, I'm thinking of the highway or something like that. In that particular case, it would be like our neighbors. Well, our neighbor is not the government, but there's a different sort of thing going on there.
Well, we are a government of the people, by the people, for the people, supposedly.
Yeah. Honestly, I can... I can look at houses in my area and see that clearly a few of them need some new paint.
Yeah.
Now, I can do one of two things at that point, right? I can complain to the city and say, you got to do something about these people. They're dragging down my house values.
Right.
Or two, I can maybe knock on their door and say, I'd be happy to help you paint that, or maybe even chip in for a couple gallons, or maybe just scrape the old stuff off. Either one of those. So either one of those might be appropriate, but one is certainly more in line with the intent of this commandment.
Yeah, I think of Clint Eastwood in Gran Torino, and the next door neighbor kid does something bad, and he could go to jail for it, basically. Oh, he's trying to steal his car, I think it was. And so this kid didn't really have a father figure in his life, and Clint Eastwood said, you're going to work this off. And the way that he had him work it off was the neighborhood, which was once a very nice working class, middle class neighborhood, had gone to pot, and the house across the street was just falling apart. So he had the kid over there painting the house and fixing things and all that. We don't do that very often. But I live in a great neighborhood where if you leave your trash can out, your neighbors will pull it in for you, put it on the side of your house and that sort of thing. These are the little things that actually make a difference. You're improving your neighbor's property by little things, not leaving the trash can out.
By the way, I just got to say, in terms of the movie Gran Torino, the absolute crabbiest father figure ever. So, by the way, if you want to go to that,
well, yeah, but honestly, it's a great movie, and they create a bond together, and he does become a father to this kid in many ways.
In many ways. Okay.
Yeah. But so, regardless, sometimes, crappy people just need someone to care about.
Yes,
so
I
that's
do.
Good. Yeah.
I mean, yes, they do. So let's, first off, let's just focus on stealing first, shall we?
Right.
So our neighbor's got stuff. And once again, who's our neighbor? Well, everybody. It's the store we've gone to. It's our physical neighbor. It's the people we meet on the street. They've got stuff. They've got money. They've got stuff.
Right.
We are not to take that from them.
So you might be thinking, okay, I've never, or, I haven't recently, maybe you did when you were a kid, stole some candy from a store or something like that. But I don't generally steal from people. I don't, go into their yard and take their lawnmower or their sprinkler or whatever. I just don't do that. So I'm okay, right? Well, maybe not.
Okay.
What about...
Wait, hold on.
What about music? What about software? What about intellectual property, right?
Let's do that, shall we?
Have you downloaded anything that is not that you haven't paid for? That hasn't been put out there to be for free on purpose?
Let's say any copyrighted thing. Yeah, anything that's not... You're right, okay. If you're asking, my answer is technically yes. So I've got two albums in mind, neither of which anyone would recognize. But both of those albums are long since out of print and also not available for purchase as an MP3. So but they weren't available for purchase anywhere.
Right.
And yet, I had like an old cassette copy or something like that. I just wanted to put a copy in my computer. So I did actually end up finding, some file share versions of these, some MP3s. And I did try to justify that in my mind by saying, okay, I'm not stealing anything from anybody because it's not as though I'm keeping someone else from purchasing this. And even if I could miraculously find it at a used record store, let's say, the artists themselves would not be receiving any money from their intellectual property at that point.
Sounds like a pharisaical self-justification to me.
It probably is a little bit. It probably is a little bit. However, there's still like a distinction between that,
right?
And let's say, okay, back in the old days, here we go. Back in the 1980s and 90s, we would have taken a bunch of songs and made a mixtape.
Yeah.
And given them to our friends.
Right.
Or even, now this I did do, say, let me borrow that whole album so I can record it to my cassette.
Right.
Now that, in effect, was stealing.
It was piracy.
Yes, because
as we know it today, actually.
Yeah, there we go. Right. Because, when you purchase these things, the intellectual owner, the owner of the intellectual property, rather, does earn some money.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Even though I didn't walk into the store and steal something directly from that, and I did the opposite too. I made copies for friends and kept them from purchasing it.
Sharing of PDF ebooks, these sorts of things also, someone worked hard to create that book and to just kind of, here, have a file, kind of thing. That's stealing. That person deserves the fruits of their labor.
Yeah, I would say most PDF ebooks are intended to be free anyway, but I know what you mean.
Yeah. Well, maybe someone charges $10 for their book, and that's how they distribute it.
Yeah.
So
we have copyright laws that are intended to protect the intellectual property owners.
Okay.
And we do tend to, I think even as Christians, we tend to treat those a little bit lightly. I've even heard Christians say, they posted something online that is copyrighted, and like a song or music or something like that, and their justification was, well, this song makes the name of Jesus known. I guess if they want to sue me for that, they can. Like, that's not the point, is it?
Right.
It's not the point.
Right.
With that too, though, I think there's another thing that I was thinking of. Is the kind of the classic justification that, hey, maybe I took this one little thing from this multi-billion-dollar company, but A, they're not going to miss this one little thing.
Right.
Or two, they've got insurance to cover losses, so they're not really losing anything at that point either. But still the question comes back is it your property? Is it your property?
Right.
And no, so you have no business taking it. Okay, so I want to tell this story real quick. There was once a guy I knew who had kind of a job. He was cleaning up homes in the area that had been either vacated or foreclosed upon, something like that. And at one point, there was some stuff in that home that he wanted in the garage, and he took it. He just found out that...
Just work through it.
Okay, all right. So, dear listener, if you hear the dogs in the background, those are the fine protective animals here at the 4U Radio Studios.
Louis Prima the Labrador and Mel Torme the Beagle.
There we go. And they're doing their job as dogs,
protecting the house.
So anyway, this one gentleman I knew he took some stuff out of the garage. A neighbor witnessed that. They called the police. He ends up getting arrested and getting all sorts of trouble. And his defense was, I didn't know it belonged to anybody.
Huh.
And my question to him was, did you know it belonged to you?
Right.
Yeah, well, no, and the answer is, no, I knew it didn't belong to me. Well, then you should have left it, because otherwise it's stealing.
Yeah. See, these are kind of gray areas that we self-justify in, these sorts of things. I mean, house hunting is interesting. When you're out looking for a home, and you see that the place is empty, they've clearly moved out, but they've left a record collection and an old beat-up TV in the basement. They obviously didn't want those, right?
Right.
And I remember looking at some houses and flipping through those records, and it's like, this is gold to me. It's garbage to most people, but it's, Alfred Apaka, stuff like that.
What?
Hawaiian music.
Oh,
And I'm
okay.
like, oh, cool, vinyl, it's like, man, they obviously don't want it. And I'm like, man, that would be really cool. But,
Right,
I didn't take it, but still, I've figured out whoever buys the house, they probably inherit that. And they're going to throw it out and I'll be sad, but regardless.
Yeah. And this happens in a billion little ways every day at work.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe you grab some paper clips or some pens or something like that. And, they don't belong to you, but you use them at work and then suddenly they're in your bag and you're taking them home. And, it just, there's all these different little ways that we do end up stealing, even though we would never call ourselves a thief.
Okay. So you brought up before the program taxes. How do taxes fit into this?
Well, as our libertarian friends would like to say, taxation is theft.
Yeah. I pretty much come down to that, but
No. Okay. So, but however,
and I don't know that Jesus would completely disagree with that, but we are responsible to,
Yes.
Romans 13, to obey the governing authorities.
This is also why you pay taxes.
To render
Paul
unto
says.
Caesar what is Caesar's.
That's what
if
Jesus
you think
says.
that it's just or fair or not, that's the deal. That's a scriptural deal.
So with taxes, then here's the great thing. Pay what you owe, and also too, if the government gives you an out, take that deduction.
Right.
Don't lie about it. Don't exaggerate it, but take it.
So a lot of people just pay their taxes straight out. They don't do itemized deductions and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they pay their taxes, and then they get upset because billionaires don't pay much in taxes compared to their income. And that's because they have an army of lawyers who find every legal loophole
yes,
to get them out of taxes. And God bless them for doing that. I wish that I had the ability to exercise such an ability. But I'm not a billionaire, and I don't have attorneys to help find loopholes for me.
Sure. Well,
but
again,
if it's legal, it's legal, and that's the thing: is you pay what you owe legally.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And we give the word loophole a bad connotation sometimes, but the fact is that that is an avenue that the government has not closed up tightly, and so again, it's not against the law, and that's legitimate, right?
And talking smack about these people who get away with these sorts of things.
Okay.
That goes to the 8th commandment, which we'll get to next time.
Okay, fine. We'll do that. So
I'm just kind of previewing it.
Yeah, just preview. Thank you. All right. So, a ton of different little tiny ways that we end up violating this commandment. Some are bigger than others. Obviously, I think everyone's going to agree that, armed robbery is flat out wrong.
Yeah.
But my children were hungry. It's still wrong. Right. For the average citizen, let's say, there's still a bunch of different ways that we violate this commandment in both spirit and letter of the law.
Right.
Now, the positive use. Shall we go for that?
Well, let's look a little bit more into this because there are legal but dishonest ways of taking from people, right? So you can legally do certain things, but it's not ethical.
Okay.
And it's not loving and it's not kind to your neighbor. Things like payday loans.
Okay. Yes. I was going to say
these things, people end up paying that interest accumulates like weekly, not annually. So when you see 19%, that's 19% a week, not a year, right?
Yeah. So I got to say, if we have any payday loan company owners listening, brother, I love you, but you're wrong.
Yeah.
You are in the wrong.
Oh, but they come to me. I don't go to them.
I don't
they
care.
Come to me.
Yeah. So the scripture has a lot to say about taking advantage of the poor and the widow.
Yeah.
Right. And there's going to be a reckoning and accounting for that. So you're talking about sort of like some sort of predatory stuff, right?
Right.
Which maybe even not strictly in that particular case dishonest, but certainly unethical.
Well, and I think we saw this back in 2008 where lenders were basically required to give loans to people that they knew couldn't repay it, home loans. And so we ended up with a big housing problem because of that.
Yeah.
And now they're doing it again. Just because you qualify for a loan doesn't mean you can pay it. And that's problematic. And that's predatory.
Sure. Yeah. I'm trying to think of ways that I might dishonestly scheme to get my neighbor's property. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Other than, let's say, like a garage sale or something like that. Okay, here I have done this actually.
Okay.
Gone to a garage sale. Someone had this thing that I thought, this is amazing. You only want $5 for that?
Yeah. Don't you know this is worth like $6,000?
Yes. So rather than just snatching it up and taking it, I actually said that, like, I got to tell you, you could sell this for a lot more.
Right.
And if they said, yeah, I know, but I just don't want to deal with it. I'm like, okay, then I'll gladly buy it.
Right.
But however, if I had kept that knowledge from them, I would have felt really bad, because even though maybe I wasn't being dishonest, but I certainly was not helping my neighbor to improve.
Right.
And I was keeping the truth from them.
Yeah.
So that'd be one way that you could scheme in a dishonest way to get your neighbor's property.
Yes.
There's got to be other ways.
Well,
I can't.
I'm sure those opportunities arise.
Yeah.
And you got to recognize them for what they are when they arise.
Sure.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head either, but I'm sure that anytime you're taking advantage of someone in a financial way, I think we could just say that, right?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Anytime, whether you're taking advantage because of the situation or their dire need or their ignorance or anything like that, you're in violation of this commandment.
Right.
Right. Okay. So what about the reverse then?
Oh, improving your neighbor's property.
Yeah.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So that
helping him keep it, helping him improve it.
Right. So as I love to point out, the law has prohibition on it, but it also has benefit. There's also this promise. There's some sort of graciousness involved with it. And with not taking your neighbor's property in a bad way, there's also protecting your neighbor's property and helping him improve his property. Yeah. And so that's the blessing is I'm called to help you with your property and you're called to help me with mine.
Sure.
And so this is the neighborly thing, right? This is my neighbors bringing my trash can in for me.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Right?
So you got that grumpy guy down the street.
Yeah.
Who's not mowing his yard.
Yeah.
And you say, good grief.
We've got one of those on our block. Yeah.
Making the neighborhood like trash. By the way, I did that for all the month of May. No mow May. It was wonderful. Anyway, look it up. No mow May. Anyway,
I'm disgusted.
So you get that grumpy guy on the street. You say, oh, this looks horrible.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Well, you're going to walk on down there someday with your lawnmower and say, I'm going to take care of your yard for you.
Yeah.
No charge.
Yeah.
I just want to mow even just your front yard, whatever, but I'm helping you to care for and maintain your property.
I've got this neighbor that I swear if he had the ability, he'd be on his hands and knees with tweezers manicuring his lawn. I mean, he takes such good care of his lawn and everything. And his next door neighbor is the guy you're talking about. Just lets it go. So as he's out mowing, he just keeps going, onto the next lawn there.
All right.
And, he wants his neighbor's lawn to look good too. And partly because, his lawn butts up against it. But, that's the neighborly, godly thing to do.
Sure,
is just, can I help my neighbor and have a self-benefit involved? Sure. Why not?
Yeah.
Maybe it is you're concerned about your property values and your neighbor also.
Okay.
Right?
I saw this most amazing thing. Speaking of that, this guy on YouTube, he has a lawn maintenance company.
Uh-huh.
And part of what he does is when he drives around, like, well, that really needs to be done over there. He knocks on the door, says, look, I'll mow this for you for free. I just want permission to set up a camera because I've got a YouTube. I monetize that. I get paid for that. Is that cool? They're like, what? It usually ends up convincing them that he just goes to town, does a great job, does everything he would normally do for a paying customer.
He videotapes himself mowing a lawn.
Yes, exactly. And then, he gets a lot of hits on his YouTube channel because, here's this guy doing that charity mowing thing again. And he gets advertisement and everything else like that. But what a great deal there that he's actually helping care for other people. It says, no, I don't need your money. I'm not trying to take advantage of you. Here's this thing.
I'm just trying to imagine going on YouTube and watching some guy mow a lawn.
I did it. It was actually really cool.
Sounds boring to me, okay. But okay.
Yeah. So
something for everyone out there.
Yeah. Thank you. Exactly. But I want to help my neighbor keep and improve his property.
Right.
I think to that end, I also have a certain responsibility, is it 11 o'clock at night and my neighbor's garage door still open?
Yeah.
I should let them know.
Yeah,
right?
probably. Yeah.
Is the guy a jerk? I don't care. You still have responsibility to him.
You know, when I teach this to the kids in the church, I always start with what is the most basic property that you have? And it's your own body.
Okay.
So we are called also to help your neighbor in his health.
Okay.
You know, not go out and terrorize people and that sort of thing, but also to also help your neighbor keep himself or herself in decent shape. And so,
Sure.
you know, this is the basic concern that we're to have is for our neighbor, period, and everything that our neighbor has and is.
Yeah, you know, I would make a distinction here that what you just said is covered by the fifth commandment.
Both, yeah.
In
It's
helping
a
our neighbor
both
in
and,
his
not an either
physical
or,
body,
right?
right? So, yeah, and just I think the genius of Luther's understanding of this is that he does do a real narrow thing. So he covers body and then covers stuff in another commandment.
Yeah.
But the end result is absolutely, as you're right, that our heart should be for our neighbor and his benefit.
Now, with that, if you're like me, you don't think twice about your neighbor more often than not. And Christ died for that one too. So you are forgiven for the sake of Jesus Christ. Now go love your neighbor. For You Radio is a 1517.org production. To listen to this radio broadcast and broadcasts like this one, I invite you to visit 1517.org. There you will also find many publications and free resources, including classes on Christian apologetics, church history, philosophy, and so much more. We are completely funded by generous donors like you. Would you consider making a generous gift to our work of spreading the gospel? Simply visit 1517.org.